Good afternoon, all, and welcome back. We have completed with our session 1. Now we will start with our session 2. I request our guest speaker, Mr. Kailash K. Yogeshwar sir, to continue with the session.
Thanks, Akshay. So, so as we had seen in our first uh, demo, first session, we had gone through what are states and props, and how we can use the parent-child structure to pass on the state as and props to the child components. Uh, Now, in this session, we'll try to create a notes application. Okay, so we'll try to create a client-side application as we are short of time. So we'll not cover the Node.js part, as you can use any of the public APIs that are available, or you can mock an API so that you can use with your React application and focus just on the client side. So I'll just try to share my screen. Okay, so I have created a project beforehand. Uh, it's called a note taker app, which will just take notes and save it. You can edit your notes as well as delete your notes. Okay, so let's first do some cleanup. Okay, so whenever we are trying to create a application in React, first you need to figure out what all the components that you will be needing to create a full-fledged application. So for note application, as you can visualize that you will be needing a text box where you will be entering the note title, as well as the description where you will be showing what this note is about, like taking groceries from the market or shopping from Amazon. So that would be the description for your note, and then we have to provide functionality.
Uh, sir, please increase the font size.
Yeah, yeah, just a moment.
Okay.
I hope it's visible now, right? Actually, it's
Yes, sir. It's visible.
a bit bigger.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so okay, so basically our structure will be same. So as we have figured out what our components will be, we'll create one sample file over here. Components. Okay, and we'll be just noting down what all the components will be. So very first we'll be having a parent container, which is which will hold all your children components. Okay, so and then child components will be your one will be your text box for getting. note title. Second will be your description or adding note description. Okay, and then we'll be needing two buttons. Okay, save button will be there, and edit button will be also there, delete button. Okay, so these are the components, okay, that will be needing to create a note application. Okay, so let's try to create a application. We'll not be touching in this HTML. So this is our main container component. Okay, so we'll call it as an app component only, and we'll try to create a folder. Okay, so here it is. Some problem. Okay, so we'll be creating our very first component, that is your input component. So what we'll call it as a input.js. Okay, so we'll be creating a class for that. We'll be reusing this. For now, I will try to do this. Okay, so we need to have uh, its own state. So we are creating a class based component, and here will be input text. Okay, we must class. That's now okay. So we have created an input uh, component now. So uh, we'll be needing a function later on. First, let's try to create a component. So another component will be save node. So this will again be a simple button with a functionality to save the notes. Okay, so So we'll have a render function also, and we'll be returning button and save. So this is another component, and let's try to configure it in our main container app. So we'll just import it over here. So we'll import the input component first, and we'll try to create container for it, and then we'll okay. So as you can see on the right side of your screen, um, there's a input box. We'll try to give some placeholder. So so we have added an input box over here. Okay, then we'll be adding a button as well. So this has input. Okay, now we have added an input box. We'll add a button also over here. So first we'll try to import the button component. So save not. And we'll be adding over here. Okay, so as you can see, I have a, let's put it down. Okay. As you can see, I have added a title input box, and I have a save button. Okay, so these are the two components that we'll be needing, and on click of save button you need to save the text as well as the description. Let's add a description also in an input component. Let's try to group them together. So we'll do CSS later on. Not, and then we'll be needing a text area. Okay, so now we have two, a text box as well as a title. Okay, we can We can add here also. Okay, now we have a clear visibility of, we have a title component, we have a description component, and then we have a save button. Okay, we haven't yet configured any interaction, like on clicking save button, what is the logic that will be doing. Okay, before that we'll also create a component. As we are creating nodes, we'll also need a component to show the created nodes. So we'll create another component, uh, list. Okay, so this component is basically whatever nodes that you are creating, it will show you below what are the nodes that you have created, and provide a functionality to edit or delete the node. Okay, so I'll go over here. So as this is a stateful component, we'll have render function, and render function will again, okay, and this will, so these items will be map. Okay, now we need to, so when you're creating list in react.js, you have to always provide the key attribute, as every list item needs a unique key value. So it's a mandatory to provide a key with a unique value. If you don't provide this, react will give you an compilation or compilation error that list item needs a key property. So try to use, we'll provide some id for one list, and then we'll just return an unordered list. We'll provide a class name of node list, and then list items. Change over that. So this is how we'll be creating a, there's a component for creating a component, import component for creating a node. Okay, that will be saved in your state. Okay, and the list component will fetch those saved nodes and display it below. Okay, so I'll just provide over here, and then we'll be providing the list item, will be calling the list item, with this dot props. Okay, that's we have configured our component. Let's try to create a state variables what we'll be needing in a state. So we'll remove this. We can add this. Take and then change it over here. Okay. So anytime we need to change name of application, we don't need to change the code. We just have to change the value. Second thing is we'll be needing a nodes array, okay, which will be an empty initially. So as we will not be having a nodes, then there will be a uh, uh, nodes. Then what else will be needing? For now, I think that's enough. So that's okay. Now we'll try to pass on. We'll integrate the list item component also. So we'll just import node and list. Let's see if we have exported. Okay. So we have exported. Now we'll try to refer the component. Okay. Okay. So it's telling me cannot read property map. That's okay. We'll debug that also. Maybe we have referred. Okay, so let's go into the list and it's saying that it cannot refer. Okay, let's see what we are getting into. No. Okay, we'll try to open the console. Okay, so we haven't received any props yet. Let's okay. We haven't passed on any props to our node, please, as you can see over here. So we haven't passed on uh, any props to the node list component. So let's pass on the state variable nodes as in props to node list component. Okay, I guess there are no list. Okay, there's a warning cannot appear as a descendant p. Okay, I think that warning is over here. That's okay. Let's try to see if there are any errors. No, I think so. Hmm, okay. So for now, initially there are no nodes. So let's keep this console. We'll come over here and try to initially before creating any application, try to mock your data before doing any UI thing. So node one. Okay, objects are not valid. Okay. So we'll try to pass on the empty array. Then we'll come over here. Let's see the console. Objects are not valid. React child on objects with keys. Okay. So as you can see, what we are getting is object.id, and so we'll be needing this to change this. Okay. So we'll change this, and as you can see over here, whatever note I am adding, it's been getting displayed. Okay. So just like that, we'll refer another property as well. So we'll go to our list item component. So one thing to note when doing a development is never use alert for debugging. So always use console.log for debugging. It's quite helpful also, and you'll focus on because alerts always disturbs you and interrupts you while developing. So always use console.log. It's quite efficient rather than using alert boxes. Okay, so we have displayed the label. So we'll just try to make this better. Okay, so we are displaying this. We'll display description also. Okay, so that's the description. We'll add this in a pre tag, and then we'll be adding this. Okay, so as you can see, we have created a component. We have just passed on the static uh, description and all for now to see how our components are working at least. So always it's a better practice, or I can say a good practice, before taking on the real data and working on real data. Try to create or mock your state thing and see how your UI is behaving. So you'll get a rough idea that component that you have integrated into one another are working, and your states and props are being passed properly or not. Okay, so as I change over here, you can see simultaneously there's an update on UI also. I change the note over here. Now let's see if I don't attach a key. So what React gives you. Let's say I don't attach a key over here. So it will give you an error. Okay, so as you can see, cannot appear, and there are a lot of errors. Okay, over here. So it's a better good practice to give a key ID. It's not only helpful for identifying respective elements, but also good for editing and live editing and on place editing. So we have created a skeleton basically now. Let's try to add an interaction so that whenever there's a note added, we'll display it over here. Okay. Before that, we'll do some changes. We'll try to do this as we'll be adding only list items, and let's try to okay, one and the same thing. So we are just creating an unordered list at the wrapper, and we'll just be adding the list items. Okay, like this. So our UI is ready. Now we need to add interactions. So at the app level, we'll be needing. We need to provide a way to update the state. Okay, so what I'll be doing is creating a function over here. So what that function will be, save note. Okay, and now we need to, what this will do is this will fetch the value from, okay, so we'll name our input box, give it an ID, and then description area we'll give it. So we have added, let's go to our main app. So we'll first take the title element, and then we'll be, okay, so we have taken the value from two elements, and we need to save this data into our state variable. So we have already created the nodes array. We'll remove this thing. Okay, and let's try to keep it as it is, and we'll add on. So for every node we need to assign an ID also. So let's try to create a unique ID also for that, which will be helpful for editing the nodes. So I hope you are able to hear me. Hello, hello, hello,
Yes, sir.
hello.
Hello.
You able?
So your voice is breaking. Hello, sir.
Hello,
So your voice is breaking.
hello.
Hello.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The issue is solved. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'll reshare my screen. I haven't edited uh, before that, so still we are on the same application. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen as well.
Yes, sir. Now it's clear.
Okay, so we were at saving the node data. So we'll be needing a title and a description, which we have collected over here. So we'll be needing to save those in our state variables, so which is our database. So we have taken that, and we'll just try to call uh, we'll try to push in the, so we have this dot state dot nodes, and we'll try to push the newly created node object to the nodes. Okay, so this will push the nodes to the state object, and will uh, update the UI as well. So let's try if it works. And let's see, we'll try to print this also first to debug it. So let's try to open the console. I'll clean it up. So Node.js. Okay, we haven't uh, registered the on-click event listener, so we'll be needing that also. We need to configure that. So we need to configure on-click event listener. So we'll be calling this dot save note, and we'll be bind it to this. Okay. So as you can see, I have a save button with an event listener I've registered, which will call the save note function. Okay, and then we'll be fetching the values of title input box as well as the description. Let's try to test it and then see if anything happens. Okay, so we have this. Let's see if we have this note one object. Okay, so we have this as a save button as a component. Mm, so we don't need that actually. We'll be needing here directly a button. So I'll just add a button, and the reason we removed that component because save button was not doing any spatial state related work. So we can just add the inline save button. Okay, so it doesn't make any sense to create a component which is not at all doing anything related to state. So let's see. Okay, so we are getting an error like document.getElementById is not a function. Okay, so so we'll come over here and we'll try to print what is the document. Let's save this and again. Okay, so we have this document and we need to call this. Okay, maybe we have hypofix. Okay, yes, it's the different one. Uh, okay, so we need to first take in the element and then its value. So we'll see if we are getting a proper element and try to add. Okay, so here we are getting an element, and if we check for that, so there will be a property. There will be a property called id placeholder and tag name. So we need to get the value for that. Okay, so where here we are input element. We need to check value. What is the value for that? We haven't defined any. Okay, so this is an input field and we'll be needing a save nut function on that also. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll create a function over there. Let's try to create. Let's try to see. Okay, and remove this because we'll be needing a and we come over here. Okay, okay, so what we'll do is we'll take that input over here. So input type equals to text and placeholder. Okay, and then we'll be having a text area. So so what we had done in different component, we have just replicated it over here. So we'll try to uh, take provide an ID for this, and ID title and description. Okay, so we have provided ID for both of them, and after the click will be comment this out as well. We'll try to do this. Okay, okay. So what we'll do is we'll register an on-change listener, so which will be called every time. Okay, on change. So this will uh, dot set title. Okay, so we need to create a function over here which will capture the value for that, and we'll just remove this also, and we'll just we'll create two more variables over here, uh, and so which will be initially empty, and then we go to the set title, and we'll need another. Okay, so I have registered an on-change listener for input element. Similarly, you will be needing to you'll need to provide the on-change listener also for the, and we'll make this as okay also for dot state dot title. As we have done those changes, we need to set description. So let's try to first log uh, what we are getting. So I hope this works. Let's see. So as you can see, uh, I am just clicking, and the events have been registered. As I am not setting any value, which is being used in the input element. So it's not capturing the value. So I need to this dot set state and also over here let's see. So now we are able to type in, and as you can see, uh, I'll just try to remove these console logs, so you'll get a proper idea what a state will be looking like. Okay, I'll just print state over here, and also similar thing over here. So let's try to so as you can see, when I'm typing in the title box and in the description box, this is what your state tree will look like. So now it contains description as description, and title is containing the node in there. Okay, so what you will be doing is whenever I click a save button, whatever is inside this, I'll take these two values, title and description. Okay, so let's go to our save node function. This dot set title description. Okay, then I am just pushing it to the nodes, and then and once you do that, you also set empty. Okay, so let's try it out first. I think there's one more console log on change listener. Okay, I'll remove this. And try to do this. So as you can see, the below title to note is been added. I'll just show it in the bigger screen. So I'll just add another title 3, and so as you can see, whenever I'm clicking a save button, so it's getting added to the notes list, is getting passed on. The states are getting passed on from the parent component, which is your basically the app component, and those states are being passed on to your note list component as a props. Okay, so here whenever there's an addition to your state, whenever there's your updation to your states, so here we are pushing a new note object to the existing notes object. So if I can show you the state structure, so this is your state structure right now. So there are three objects. Okay, now I'm creating a unique ID for every one of them. Okay, and each and every note object is getting added to that array. Okay, so this is how you pass your state and state as a props to your component, and you pass the output for it. So this is a one-way binding. You update the state variables over here, and automatically it's been reflected on your UI. So if we try to add any more, so it gets added. So once you refresh the page, it will be okay. So it's still showing the default notes thing that we had configured. Okay. Uh, so that's how we need to create the components. So we need to use the state and props model to uh, pass on the state variables from one component to the child component. So there's always a parent-child relationship. If there are two components that requires the same state variables, so you need to bring them to the common ancestor and share that state variables with both of them. So this was a save node which we didn't need it actually. So we took those save button code and put it in our main application. Okay. So if there was a reason to move this save button from here to there, because this save component is aware of the state that was created in your application component. So even I was clicking the save button, it was not performing options. That's the reason I had to move this save button from specific component file to this component file. If there's a I don't recommend to use this model, but if we want to have a components in a different file and want to update state somehow, so what we had to do is if we wanted to use a different component file and even wanted to update the state component, so what we would have to do is like we already have this save node function. Okay, so we have to pass this save node function as a props to the input component. So your input component will be taking as props the save node function. Okay, and will be binding to this. Okay, so this is how, and then inside your input component you will be uh, sorry, the save node component, you will be getting it as a props. So here you will be doing like this. So these dot props dot save node. This is how you will be doing a component interaction between a parent component and a child component. So parent component, which is creating its own state, need to provide the helper functions to the child component so that they can also Okay. I hope you got a clear view about the demo that I had created. Like I said, you can extend this demo as well. I'll share the code as well for this. Okay. But before that, you need to uh, learn the basics about React.js. What are components? I'll share the slides also. Go on the React documentation side. It's a very good documentation actually. Uh, it's very helpful for getting started. There are a lot of demos and sample projects that are created. Uh, so, like I said, we can create a edit button and delete button also. So once I add this and once we, so it will be created. So as you can see, we need to write very less code. So same code and same component is being reused again and again. Okay, and then we can do over here. So these dot edit. Okay, and again on delete.
Sir, have you shared the screen?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I just forgot that.
Okay.
Okay, you able to hear this? Able to see the screen, right? So as I
Yes,
was
that.
saying that we can extend this demo. We can add more functionality to it, like edit button and delete button. And once you see the power of React.js, so you don't have to write code again and again. Like you don't have to create this list item again and again by copying and pasting and putting those values in it. So it is flexible enough, and you have to write a very short code, but it's quite scalable. So you need to structure it once and make the changes to it by providing more and more props and changing its core logic so that it can be used in many other components. So just so let's if you have any questions, we can take on the questions right now related to demo.
So there is one question.
Yeah, go ahead. The save button acts as a props in index.js. Yes, it acts as a prop. Uh, okay. So what is this is inside the render function there is a save button. Okay. So for now I have moved it from different file over here. Okay. So it is not a prop, but it's a child element actually. What props are basically is these are the props. So what props means is whatever the attribute that you are passing to a component is called a prop. So here I am passing the nodes as a array as a props to note list component. You can also pass on the function as a prop. So I can like note list component I can uh, pass like this. So I need to create over here edit node. Okay, and then I have to do the logic over here. Okay, so I can pass the value data as well as the function as a prop to another component. So once I provide this, so you can check it in the node list component. Okay, what are the props that this component is getting? So if I try to print, inside the render function. So I'll just open the console. Okay. So you can see I have also provided the edit function over here. Okay. Now my task has been become easy. Okay. Now what I need to do is just I need to just do the changes. Okay. Whatever the value I can provide on this button. So I can on click this dot ops dot edit. No. Okay. So I'll call this function over here. So that's how you can uh, pass on the function as well as the values to your component. Yes. Any other questions?
No, sir, don't have any questions yet.
Okay. Let's wait if someone has question.
Okay.
So I hope you basically have understood what is component. So very first thing is your component, and component interacts on your state and props. So component can be a parent component which is responsible for updating the state and provide the helper function to its child components to update the state variables. Okay. So whatever state properties that it needs to pass on to its child components are passed only using props. Okay. Child component can create its own state also, as well as it can use the props that have been passed by its parent component. So it's a unidirectional, it's a top to bottom flow. So the state variables and props are always passed on from the parent component to its child component. Yeah. So sorry for the disconnection. So is there any more question, any more doubts about React? Why should I use React? Uh, what are its advantages? Uh, it might be a lot of confusion when you start initially, but as you get the basic understanding about the core terminologies and how React works. So basically, there is nothing more than components, containers, state, and props. There are a lot of other things also, like you can create a router and client side routing also you can develop. That's a bit intermediate part, so it's not recommended for the beginner. So you can take any simple example we had discussed today. So it was the first one, the counter application. The second is your list application to draw the boxes, and third is your note application. I have created this and I have just provided a functionality to just save the note. I'll share the screen. I'll share the code as well with you all, so you can see the code and make changes to it, and uh, expand the existing demo to include the edit functionality and delete functionality. Okay. So we can take on the questions any if you needed few
So there is a
questions.
question. Can we
Yeah,
put it?
yeah, sure. If we are a beginner, then how can we start up with React.js advantages? And okay, if you are a beginner, so first you need to clear the basic understanding of React's components, which I had shown in the slides. What are the terms that are used in a React? So basic is your virtual DOM, that you don't need to consider because it happens internally. You don't need to be aware of that, but a basic understanding about it is good. Second thing is your component, then third comes your state, and fourth comes your props. So these are the 3 to 4 things that are only needed for you to grasp the React concepts. Rest we can learn later on, uh, as we grow up in React JS community, and as and when then whenever there are new features are being added to React JS, or when we need to create a bigger application. But for learning purposes, I would recommend to try out the sample projects that we have done today, at least 2 projects, the counter application and the note application. So so it's very easily done in an hour, so you can do it. I'll share the website link also, where you can directly write the code and see it live on your screen. Yes, any other questions?
No, sir, we don't have any other questions.
Okay, there are no questions coming from girls' end. At least 1 to 2 questions should be fine. Like why, how can we do a styling and all inside React JS? So it's just I can see a rough idea. You don't for a UI developer, you don't need to only know about HTML only, but uh, you should have a good knowledge about the JavaScript as well. So in future there will be frameworks and libraries that will make it mandatory for you to write the JavaScript code, just like the React do. React forces you to create a JavaScript file and then write a HTML inside it. So no more HTML file only. So you have to write a JavaScript code even for creating a UI elements. So it's a requirement of every company that everyone should be uh, at least have a basic knowledge about JavaScript. So one more thing I would like to tell is for hosting a React application, you don't need any server. You can build your code on your system and directly open your index HTML file. Okay, even then it will work. So it's not a mandatory. You should be having a server that is running anywhere. But even in a browser, you can create your HTML and then compile your React.js code and just open your HTML file. It will work the same as a JavaScript code file.
So there is one more question. Shall I put the question?
Yes, go ahead. Okay. What about APIs and routes? Okay. There are two things to consider when we want to talk about APIs. Yeah, that's a very interesting thing and a very challenging thing to integrate an API and defining a routes. So as you might be aware of a single page application terminology that is used by React.js. So as you must be seeing in my code, there's no more file than one index.html, and also that file has hardly any code. So I'll just show my index.html. So as you can see, this is the minimum code that is required by a React application. Rest all the HTML code is being rendered using the components. So it is for API and routes. You can define a routes at the client side also. React provides a React router library for creating a routes which are equivalent to what you create in the backend. So whenever you create a routes in a React application, those routes are handled by the browser itself. So that request is never propagated to your server. So you can write a routing logic also. There's a library React router. You can use that and create a custom endpoints. So React endpoints are always created after in a URL followed by hash. So whenever you see a hash in your URL, so it's sure that it is created using React router. And about the API, we can consume APIs in React also by creating service components which are only responsible for fetching data from APIs. So what we have done in our application is we have created a static default node which can be API call to our server to fetch the nodes for a particular user. Yeah.
So we have done with the questions. There are no any more questions yet.
Okay. Okay.
So there is one more question now. Can I put it?
Yeah, sure. Yes, React.js itself is a library. It's not a framework. Like I have created a one page using React. It is not mandatory that all the pages in a web application will be created in React. You can create all the other rest of the pages using Angular or any of the frameworks. But you can use React in Angular, but you cannot use Angular in React. Okay, that's the main requirement of React. So it's just a library which is used for performing a specific operation. So it's basically for only for UI.
So we don't have any questions now.
Okay. Uh, I hope it was clear for every, at least um, a basic understanding about React. So I have summed up really in short, a very short explanation of rather than a complex overview architecture of React. So what are the basic things that at least you need to be aware before starting on React.js development? So I hope you all have understood. I've tried to create a demo as well to show the different concepts. So I hope everyone has got over it.
Yes, sir, the session was very informative. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for your session. We got to know so much from this. Thank you, Kailash, sir, for conducting this, and I hope that we get to know more from you in the future. Then I would like to thank all the viewers and the faculties who joined in webinar. Next, I would like to thank our management, late Shri Vishnu Vaman Thakur Charitable Trust for making this webinar possible. A special thanks to our IC Principal Professor Chandni Ma'am, Nitesh Sir, and all our faculties for their help and support. Lastly, our team, Divyakant Shloka, Akshaya, Chirag Shah, and Harshada for their efforts for making this possible.
Thank you, Rajeshri, to you also.
Thank you, Kailash.
Thank you, Nitish sir, for organizing this and giving me an opportunity uh, to share my knowledge with my juniors and to the faculties as well. Thank you for arranging this streaming. I hope to see you guys in a very good company. I would also love to help you guys to train and focus and know about more about technology in upcoming future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.